Shalom, shalom, shalom. I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah HaQuadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessing, and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad, teaching His word in truth and sincerity. I'm back with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai. And I'm going to go into World War III, right? Go into the milk of it, because we're coming into that time where we will be going into World War III. Now we know, more prophecies have to play out, but we see the build up to World War III. We see these nations arming themselves. Iran, Russia, China, Babylon, right? You see Babylon falling out with the EU, right? So these things are all going to culminate into World War III, right? So I'm going to read Revelations 11 and 14, and Lord willingly, this lesson is edifying. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So woe is destruction or calamity or grief. And we know these woes that are being spoke about are wars, right? Because we know when these wars happen, it's great grief, because it's death and destruction happening at a high level. Right, so we read that again. So the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Now, when you read Revelations, the 9th chapter, it talks about World War I, and it talks about these planes, which they call them, I think they call them like grasshoppers or locusts, locusts that's going to come out the bottomless pit, which we understand is Europe, right? And World War III was heavily fought out of Europe. In this last World's War, which is the third World's War, is going to be fought in the Middle East, right? So this is what we're looking for. This is why we see all these different conflicts in the Middle East, because this is where the last World's War is going to be fought, right? And it talks about it speaks about how the kings of the earth are going to make way. Actually, let me get it. Up to. Let me see if I can get this real quick. This is Revelation 16 and 12. It says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Right. So this is going to be an area where the kings of the east are going to go through. So it's one of the four rivers in Genesis, right? That were in the around the Garden of Eden, right? So this is where the third world's going to be fought at. It's going to be fought in the Middle East. And I'll read that again. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up. So now we're seeing that the levels, the water levels in the Euphrates River is really drying up. It's exactly happening as the scriptures state, that these rivers are going to dry up. Now we see that the rivers are dried up, right? So the kings of the east are being made ready to go through the Euphrates, right? Like I said before, we still have more things to happen, more things to have to accumulate, right? But we're right on the cusp, and anything could set us off. Of course, we still have the MOTB. We still have full-on Jacob's trouble, which World War III is going to be a part of Jacob's trouble, because a lot of men will go into war and they'll never come back. Once you get drafted into this war, you're not coming back home. This is it, right? So, and that's a part of the last days prophecies, right? Actually, let's stay in this chapter. This is Revelation 16 and 16. And he gathered them together into a place called, in the holy tongue, Armageddon, which is, I believe it's mountain of troops. Right, mountain of troops or army of troops. And Salakia, let me just actually get that real quick, just to make sure, because we know that the kings, the troops of the earth are going to be settled right there in that region, to fight World War III. And we know what's going to happen. Nuclear destruction, right? I believe it's mountain and troops, but I'm just going to get it for clarification. Armageddon, Armageddon. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. That's Har, which means hill, mountain. Yep. Right, that's one of the roots, and the other root is crowds. Yeah, so it's mountain of troops. Right, mountain of troops. This is what we're looking at right now. This is why the Bible is undefeated, because we're seeing all these things play out in real timing. Right? How can you go against that? Right? That's why we say that the way that the Bible separates itself is through prophecy. Right? Anybody can say anything and claim to be a religious book, but claim to be sent from the Most High. But when you delve into prophecy and the prophecies that were spoken 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago are starting to come to pass, that's how you know this book is undefeated. That means no other book is on the level of the Bible, because we're seeing all these things play out, right? You got certain particular people, and I ain't gonna say exactly, that want World War III to play out, right? They want to have World War III because they feel like that at the end of the World War III, they'll call us the Goyim are gonna kill themselves and they're gonna be on top. So they actually want this to play out, right? So we're seeing it play out. We're seeing that these people are trying to cause conflict so that these things can happen, but at the end of the day, they're not gonna rule at the end, right? Yahweh Shem Shai is gonna send his, or you say Yahweh is gonna send Yahweh Shai, and he's gonna throw these kingdoms down, man. He's gonna have dominion over this earth, right? So these other different empires are not gonna, these different rulers are not gonna rule the earth, right? And then the 144,000 are gonna be the governing body of for the new world, right? The new heavens and the new earth, right? So these other nations, they're not gonna prosper in conquering these different nations for rulership. That's not gonna happen. You're gonna run into Yahweh Shai, and he's gonna come. He's gonna throw all this shit down, man. These rulers, everything is gonna go down, and that's what's gonna happen, right? So, the army of troops, right? Armageddon. They call them Armageddon in English. It's Armageddon. It's the last. World's war, and what's gonna happen in this last world's war? America, Babylon the Great, is gonna be nuked via these different nations that they're going against, right? In Ezekiel 38, we hear about Russia, Gog and Magog, Turkey. What is it? It says Persia, Russia. I think it was Libya, Ethiopia, right? So, and it's gonna be more nations that are gonna be tied to those nations, right? It's just a nation. It's just a hordes of nations, a company of nations, right? Actually, let me get it real quick just to make sure. Right, because there's going to be a lot of different nations together coming against Babylon. Hold on real quick. Right, it says in Ezekiel 38, it says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guard unto them, right? Right, so that's the company of people or nations that are going to be tied to Russia, right? Russia is going to be the guard unto these different nations, right? Because Russia is that superpower, right? You got China, you got Russia. Russia has a great nuclear arsenal, right? You have China, you have Iran, which is in conflict with America right now, which they're taking their time in going over there and doing whatever they're saying they're going to do, because they know this can cause great conflict, especially with Russia and China. Those nations that support Iran. Right, so they have to think strategically before they do it. But this is how we know that the Lord, and He's gonna send them a evil thought, man. But the Lord's gonna send them an evil thought to go and do these things. It's not just them doing it, because we understand that the Lord, He rules in the kings of men, right? He rules in the minds of the kings. Let me actually get that real quick. This is Proverbs 21. It says, the king of 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, and as the rivers of water, He turneth it whithersoever He will. All right, so we understand that this world war is really going to be fought because of the Lord putting His spirits on these nations to go to war with each other because of what they did to us, and that's where I'm gonna get at. All right, let's go to Joel. Let's go to Joel real quick, and this is going to show you why we're going to war, why these nations getting gathered up. Joel 3:1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, right? Bringing back the captivity means that He's going to take the captivity away from Israel, right? Because we're in captivity currently, right now, under Esau, Edom, because of our disobedience. But what the Lord is going to do, He's going to take that captivity away from us. It says, I will also gather all nations. I will bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment, right? So the Lord is going to bring them down into Jehoshaphat, which He's going to say it. And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, right? He will plead, which means judge, which goes into that word Shaphat. For my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations as part of my land. Right, so they took over the land of Israel. Right, you have the Amalekites, who are currently in Israel. You have the Palestinians, which are the I think that some of them are from Ishmael. Right, I believe most of them are from Ishmael. They have taken over the land too. Right, so they have parted the land of Israel, and it says what? And they have cast a lot for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a goat from wine that they may drink. Right, so pretty much, they're selling the people of Israel. Right, they scattered the people of Israel. They sold the people of Israel, and it was foretold that this would happen in Deuteronomy 28. Right, that if we didn't hearken to Yahweh Bashim El Shai, that He would scatter us into all these different nations. Right, so these nations are involved with scattering us amongst the world. It says, let me skip down to 9. It says, Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. So that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the weak of the nations that would really just be focused on agriculture, and they're girding up themselves, and they're making weapons. They're enriching their uranium. They're doing these things to make sure that they can go to war now, right? Because this is the last days. The last days, it was said that it would be a great war, Armageddon, like it says in Revelations 16:16. So this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the manifestation of World War III. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, and all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen around about. That's beautiful, man. The Lord is going to judge all the heathen around about, all of them, every one of them, because they all had a hand in our captivity, man. I say all will be going to captivity. And this is a beautiful thing when you see that the Lord is rounding these people up, right? The scriptures talk about how it's a beautiful thing to see the fall of your enemies. I believe it's Sirach 25:7, right? So we're seeing that these nations are getting ready to fall, right? So that keeps us going. That keeps us motivated to keep on preaching His word. That keeps us motivated, to spread Yahweh Bashim Osai's message, because we know this is almost over with, man. Our dream of being, trodden down and being subjugated to our enemies, and that dream is almost over. We're finna wake up from that dream. It says, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come ye, get ye down, for the press is full. The fats have overflowed with their wickedness. It is great. multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Woo. That's beautiful, man. So, hey, World War III is going to happen, right? There's not going to be a time where everybody we just get together and where everybody's just good and the nations get together and they all just get along and we go into the new age just peacefully. That's not what's gonna happen. And even in these movies they always show you a post-apocalyptic world where it was some type of big war and it's a new world. Right? Of course their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever. So they show themselves in that spot where they just survive the nuclear destruction and then they're in that new world. But that new world is not for them. It's for us, right? We're in dwell of righteousness, right? The whole world is going to be overturned from wickedness to righteousness, right? And we understand they can't rule in righteousness because they were made to be the wicked. And this is why we're in great conflict right now, right? So, hey, shit's getting real. We almost up out of here, man. So, Lord willing, the lesson was edifying. I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Until next time, Lord willingly, Shalom.